Today, can Americans learn to love Italian espresso? Plus, we're going to talk about how Electric Game Box and Jump are bringing virtual thrills to the mall.
And we'll talk with Steve Dennis, author of Remarkable Retail, and that is all right now on Everything We Know About Retail. Hello, my name is Taylor Coyne, joining you from sunny and hot Los Angeles.
My name is James Cook, coming to you from humid Indiana. We both research retail and real estate for JLL.
And this is Everything We Know About Retail.
Of course it is, Taylor. This is the show where we tell all of you everything we know about retail, 3 things at a time. So let's get into it, Taylor. What do you know about retail?
As always, so glad you asked. Here is the first thing that we know about retail is that today we're joined by Steve Dennis, author of Remarkable Retail, How to Win and Keep Customers in the Age of Disruption. It's the age of disruption. What an intro to your book. I got it. Welcome, Steve.
Thanks, Taylor. Thanks, James. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I've got it right here. Put it in the... I love this book. I read. You got it too,
Taylor.
Oh, well, this is awkward. You know, can't. You know,
I like to make it as awkward as possible.
Yeah, right. That's rule 1 of things not to do in retail. Well, Steve, I read your book last year, but this is the new edition, so I'm excited to reread it. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. So, Dennis, welcome, and we're gonna start right out with
Steve.
Oh my goodness. This is just a rough morning for me. Anyway, I am so sorry. So let's talk about the actual book that you wrote. And so physical retail isn't dead, right? We've been talking about that for a while, but you've also said boring retail is, which should be also our mantra. Yeah. So how do retailers keep from being boring?
Well, so one of the things a lot of people have said to me, it's never been good to be boring, right? But the point I try to make in the book is that the bar keeps being elevated because there's so much competition. Consumers have so much choice, so much access. So that's why you have to be truly remarkable. So I think the way retailers do that is, number one, to really understand their customers at a very deep level, understand what it takes to just even get to table stakes, which again, that bar keeps being raised, and then try to find those things that really differentiate themselves in a really powerful way. So that'll vary depending on the kind of brand and the kind of customers that they serve.
You know, in this day and age too, we know so much about our customers, and by we, I mean they all know so much about us that you'd really hope that, capitalize on this. You've got so much of our information.
Yeah. But I love it. Yeah, if you're going to have one rule, don't be boring. That's a good rule. Although probably one rule, be competent at being a retailer. That's your one rule. So Steve, this is updated for the post-COVID economy. So what changes did you make to make this relevant for post-COVID retail?
Well, there were a few things. So the first edition of the book came out last April. And so I finished writing it back in the fall, so pre-COVID. So obviously, as everybody knows, a lot of things happened during that time frame. So part of what I did was just bring things current. Part of what I was worried about in the first book, and I've been talking about and writing about for a long time, was that not only did retailers need to be remarkable, but the time they had to transform to be competitive was shrinking. So unfortunately for a lot of retailers, they basically ran out of time. So this time frame I had for transformation of maybe you've got 3, 4, 5 years to make these transformations suddenly got collapsed into a matter of weeks and months. So I just had to kind of set the starting point to a different phase. But I talk in particular, expanded several sections. I talk about some of the particular impacts of the COVID crisis, not only the acceleration, which I think everybody's talked about, but some specific things like what I call the hybridization of retail, which is a phenomenon that existed, but I think has really come to the forefront.
Interesting. What do you mean by that hybridization?
Well, a couple of things. So some of it is the digital physical blending. Obviously, that's been going on for a while. But one of the things that happened was how physical stores are supporting e-commerce in a very different way. We had buy online, pickup in store, but I think I've seen some stats that that's increased. If you include curbside pickup, that's like up by about 200%. But also the number of e-commerce orders that are fulfilled from store. So you've got this hybrid of physical digital, but I think you've also got a hybrid role of the store. Stores, for the most part, as I'm sure most people know, were built with a singular purpose, which is customers go there, see stuff, pick it out, maybe get some sales help, take it home with them. Well, now stores are much more obviously branding and showrooms and fulfillment centers. And so I think the role of the store, which has been changing, is now really much more moving into a hybrid mode, which has some pretty significant implications for the real estate that gets chosen and the investments and the operations for store operators.
Yeah, and such a challenge. I know we've been talking about this a lot too, of, to your point of a store is built for a particular purpose and now it has multiple purposes. So, we like our real estate, but how are we going to change this to make this work for both us and you, the new customer who wants curbside pickup? Because I do. I love it. I really like curbside pickup. It's great.
Well, and just quickly, it gets back, though, to this idea of being remarkable. One of the things I talked about for a while was I called the omni-channel migration dilemma, which was that, things were shifting from physical store purchases to digital, and that wasn't always profitable for retailers. Well, now we kind of have this hybridization dilemma, which is the worst thing to do is to spend a lot of money investing in changing your stores or relocating stores and just keep pace, right? If you have to spend all this money just to stay even, that's not likely to be a very good ROI. So it really, again, puts this pressure on really differentiating yourself and being more customer relevant, or that money's, not going to go to good purposes.
And all that kind of being said, so we're all talking about what's necessary to, stay remarkable. So you've got 8 essentials of remarkable retail, considering our current environment, especially. What's the most important one right now that retailers should be thinking about?
Probably number 3, which is harmonized, which is my term for omni-channel. I've hated omni-channel for a long time, partially because I think it's very unhelpful to be thinking about channels. The customer is the channel, and it's really about this one experience. But also, not to be too much of a literalist about it, but omni is this idea that you want to be everywhere. And I don't think you want to be everywhere. I think you want to show up in remarkable ways that really matter to the customer. So the reason I like the term harmonized more than omni-channel is, number one is retailers have to orchestrate this experience, like all these different pieces that have to come together to not only sound pleasing, but ideally really create this strong emotional response. So harmonized is about rooting out the discordant notes in the customer experience and then kind of amplifying the wow, or creating this memorable, remarkable experience that will really not only win you business, but hopefully get customers talking about your brand and kind of creating that flywheel of customer loyalty.
Love it. Well, Steve, thank you so much for joining us today. Your book, Remarkable Retail, is out now in wherever you buy books. It's available.
Pretty much.
I'm sure.
Pretty much, yeah.
And we're going to say goodbye for now, but can you stick around to play a little bit of retail trivia with us in a little bit?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Awesome. All right. Well, in the meantime, Taylor, what else do you know about retail?
Here. So the second thing that we know about retail is that immersive entertainment is coming to a mall near you. Who said malls are dead? We get to go and do all of the things at the malls now, right?
They're back, baby.
They're back. Just like, apparently I'm on a real entertainment swing, when talking about Vegas. Now I want to share about a new concept I hadn't heard about. I only recently learned because they just raised $11 million in a Series A2 funding. They're called Electric Game Box. Okay. They are reinventing how video games are played using projection mapping, touch screens, 3D motion tracking, and surround sound without headsets. So you and I think are both pretty familiar with a lot of VR stuff. I feel like we've experimented.
We went to 2-Bit Circus. We've done The Void. R.I.P. The Void.
Yeah, R.I.P. We'll talk about The Void in a second.
Whoa. So I know one thing right off the bat is they're not wearing backpacks. Like the Void was awesome, but you had to wear a backpack and goggles and headphones.
Yes, but you got to imagine too, all of this is a little different, right? Like the Void was you were walking through an entire set almost. Gamebox is very much you're in more of a contained space, but you can play games with friends. You can go by yourself. There's just like a lot of different capabilities once you're in this room. And you can play a whole bunch of different games. And again, like you can have, I don't know what the max amount of people are, but you can have more people in there than just, you and one friend. So it's pretty cool. It's a UK based operation. They opened their first US location in the Colony, which is just north of Dallas. And they want more than 1,000 locations in the US and the UK by 2026. That is impressive. That is not just a few stores. That's a lot. Brookfield is going to be opening them in its retail locations in Chicago, Houston, Salt Lake City, San Bernardino, California, and Arlington, Virginia. And this is all, happening supposedly by the end of the year. So whoever said this is malls are dead, entertainment's dead, we're never having fun again, they're all wrong.
I loved that. It's just so I understand from that video, you wear a goofy hat in order for the computer to track you. Is that it?
Yeah. And
Cool.
Who doesn't want to wear a goofy hat? So I think it all works.
I love a good hat.
But, I think that's just, again, it's pointing to new creative tenants. Again, nothing new, right? We talked about this pre-pandemic, but it's just nice to hear that we're talking about it again now. I mean, I think we'll discuss if we're post-pandemic. We're not post. We're still in a pandemic. But, that we're talking about some of these things and people are excited to get back out there. I think that's just, great. And James, you also mentioned The Void, of which we've had a lot of fun. We did Ghostbusters and we did Star Wars, right? At The Void.
That was like the best Star Wars experience in my life, other than seeing the movies for the first time. Oh, man.
Yeah. I actually was a huge fan of Ghostbusters. That was my preferred Void experience. But unfortunately, when the pandemic hit, The Void closed. Again, not terribly surprising. No one is going into these small quarters with other people. Entertainment really suffered. However, the creators behind The Void have this new concept called Jump. Now, I know we talked about it a little bit. I'm not sure what I would have thought of when I thought, what is Jump? Well, pretend you're one of those little squirrel, like people in the squirrel suits jumping off a cliff, and it's simulated for you in this VR experience.
Okay. So It's a simulated, whatever that squirrel suit thing is called.
Yeah, basically. And you're cliff diving.
What?
I mean, you can see in this video. So you're supposed to actually feel like you are flying, like one of those, to be perfectly honest, crazy people who jumps off cliffs. But, this is a hyper reality entertainment concept. And again, it's the same co-founder that, did The Void. So I think, imagine a very similar, very intense experience. Personally, I remember when we did Ghostbusters, you're like on the edge of a building and I was scared. Yeah. It makes it feel very real. So if you're interested, they will be opening at American Dream, which we've also talked about at length. That's, the mall in East Rutherford, New Jersey, and they're tentatively set to open by the end of the year. So we've got a lot to check out on our next trip to New York.
Oh my gosh. We're going to have to take a week to hit all this stuff, but a day for American Dream and then another 5 days to do New York. Anyway.
Yeah, but all of that, again, like this is great. I feel like that's a really good thing for American Dream. And just kind of, to add one last research thing, stat to it. So spending for arts, entertainment, and recreation as of the first quarter was up 12.9% from the end of last year. It's only going to keep going up, and that's for movie theaters. That's for museums. There's a lot that's jumbled into that stat. But all of this, this is really great. More green shoots, more getting back to normal, really exciting. We've got a long list of things to check out once we, start really traveling again. So exciting stuff.
Awesome.
And James, now tell me, what do you know about retail?
Well, Taylor, here is the third thing that we know about retail. You're familiar with the Italian coffee brand Illy?
I am. I can picture the brand, the logo perfectly in my head on the silver coffee can.
It's the silver can, top shelf, because it is definitely one of the most expensive ones. But they also have a chain of cafes in Italy, and they also have about 20 locations in the US. And I was thinking about it. I've been to one. There's one at the Venetian, the hotel in Las Vegas. I don't know if you remember that.
Definitely.
But I would stop in there when we were in town for recon and get coffee. I love a good strong espresso, so I'm a fan. So Wall Street Journal recently reported that Illy Cafe plans to open up another 12 U.S. locations. Like I said, they already have 20. And let me show you. This is one of their, what they call a flagship location in San Francisco. So it's just a nice little, espresso bar, right? A lot more modest in their menu than Starbucks. And that is kind of a big question mark for them. Because as you very well know, Taylor, what do Americans like? They like big coffee drinks. They like lots of options, and they like sweetness, like flavored syrups. Like, I don't even know. I'm not a flavored syrup person, but
tell me more about the pumpkin latte or pumpkin spice latte. That's it, right?
Right. Yeah. You try to give an Italian a pumpkin spice latte, their head's going to explode. But that's a problem. Now, they said they are going to try to have some concessions, or they do have some concessions. So they do have lattes and cappuccinos, stuff that has milk and coffee mixed together. But they have said no flavored syrups. That is a bridge too far. They are not willing to do it.
I mean, there are two things, right? Like I'm totally with you on the Starbucks. We like so many options. We like a lot of the gross sweet stuff. But at the same time, I feel like we do have a coffee movement happening.
Yes.
Maybe more, definitely more in your coastal cities, probably, if you actually took a deep dive. But I don't know, more and more people are becoming coffee snobs. So this could be a good, as long as you're picking the right locations, they could be really successful.
Right. If you think about Starbucks as like Spotify, in the music world, the Illy, the espresso drinker is going to be the person who still buys their records on vinyl,
There you go.
So it may be a niche, but it's going to be a strong niche, right?
Yeah, exactly. And again, the right market and the right location, I think you could do really well.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Taylor, you know what time it is?
Hopefully my favorite time of day.
It's time for the retail challenge. And I got to get my notes here because I have my secret notes, and we're going to bring back Steve. Welcome back, Steve.
Hi, thanks for having me back.
All right. And so the rules of retail challenge are simple. We're going to ask you 3 trivia questions. Taylor and Steve are going to be competing. You don't have to be the first to shout it out. You can just give your answer, and then whoever has a correct answer gets a point. And after 3 questions, whoever has the most points wins. And sometimes we give half points and quarter points, especially
really flexible.
Right. There's no prize, Steve. So it's just all in fun. And so let's get into it. So as you guys probably know, the new permanent Google retail store, their first, opens today in New York City. It's actually right next to Chelsea Market and Meatpacking in Manhattan. Inside that store, they have immersive elements like this. That thing on the right is a Google Imagination Space, which is an exhibit that's kind of rotating. It's got like digital screens. Right now, it's featuring Google Translate. So as you speak, it simultaneously translates what you're saying into 24 different languages. And, I guess that's to demonstrate how cool Google Translate is. So you guys, I'm sure, are aware Google has done many pop-ups in the past, but this is their first permanent store. In 2018, Google did a pop-up in New York and Chicago. What was it called? And I'm going to give you 3 choices, multiple choice. Was it called Google Goods? Was it called Gadgets by Google? or was it called Google Hardware Store?
I'm going to go with Google Goods.
Okay, Steve, you've got Google Goods. Taylor, you went there, and I bet you don't remember the name.
I absolutely don't. And part of me is like, yeah, it's got to be Google Goods. But then part of me is like, there's no way I would have forgotten that. So I'm actually going to go with option number 3 and just throw a real curveball in there.
Okay. All right. So we've got Taylor saying Google Hardware Store.
Which does not sound right. But again, just for a different answer, I'm going with that one. Or no, I'll do Google Gadgets.
Okay. So Taylor's taking Google Gadgets. Or Gadgets by Google. Steve has Google Goods, and the answer is Google Hardware Store. Right? I didn't remember that until I looked it up. And it was very hardware store themed. Like they tried to make it feel in places like a hardware store. All right. So after one round, 0-0.
Zip.
How time really fades your memory, you know?
Okay, now let's go north of the border. You guys know the Canadian department store Hudson's Bay. So they have announced they're going to start carrying Forever 21 products at select locations. So you guys remember Forever 21 had a bankruptcy, I think in 2019. And as a part of that, they closed all of their Canadian locations. So here's the trivia question. Let's put a reverse on that. What is a store that has closed all of its US locations, but is still open in Canada? And I'll give you 3 choices. So closed in the US, still open in Canada. First option, Century 21. Second option, Christopher and Banks. And the third option, Toys R Us. So open in Canada, not in the US.
Toys R Us, final answer.
All right.
Banks.
Okay. So we're locking in. Taylor's got Christopher and Banks. Steve's got Toys R Us. And the answer is Toys R Us. And I love it. I love the logo has a maple leaf in it.
I do actually also really like that.
Awesome. So Steve's got 1 point. Taylor has 0 points. Taylor, you've got an opportunity here to even it up. And Steve, you've got an opportunity to become the clear winner. And
world dominant winner.
So Steve, your book, it's called Remarkable Retail. One of the things that stood out to me when we talked last is you said that shopping centers often feel the same wherever you are. You could be at a mall in whatever, where I live in Indianapolis, or be in Houston. A lot of times they look the same. So they really need to make themselves look unique. I think this mall is unique. This is an international mall. It has this cool fountain art. It has an ice rink. What else do we have here? It's got an aquarium and an underwater zoo. In terms of total land area, it's the world's biggest mall. In terms of GLA, it is as the same size as the West Edmonton Mall, which I think is the biggest mall in North America. But anyway, what international mall is it?
Oh, we don't get multiple choice?
I'll give you multiple choice. I'll give you
unless Steve, you wanted to, you seemed you're going to answer.
I've been there.
Oh,
well then go for it. Let's,
but I'm not sure I'm going to get the name exactly correct.
If you said if you said the country, it'll be fine.
It's the Mall of Dubai.
Taylor, what's your answer?
Well, I was going to say there's no way this is not in Dubai or in the UAE someplace. So right. I'm sorry. There's an aquarium in the basement. There's water features. I was like, this is in the middle of desert. It's in Dubai.
And the answer is Dubai Mall
or Mall
of Dubai. I've seen it both ways.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. I should have given you 3 choices. We could have said, Mall of America was also a similarly crazy mall. What were we just talking about? American Dream, similarly has a lot of stuff. So, Steve, what do you think about this idea of malls being big and as much about entertainment as selling goods. Do you think that's the way to distinguish themselves?
I think it's one of the ways. I just tend to think it doesn't work in a ton of locations. I think you need a big city, probably big tourist. Mall of America draws from a very wide area. Mall of Dubai is, huge tourist place. So, I mean, I think you need a lot of bodies either
Right.
in the area willing to travel there to make it work. So I suspect it works, in a few dozen locations around the world, but it's not going to be a strategy for a lot of malls that are struggling.
I think that's a fair take. Well, Steve, you're the winner of the retail challenge. So
that's all that matters.
Right. Bring that with you through the end of the day. At some point, maybe we'll come up with a prize or something, but at this point, it's just bragging rights. So
hey,
bragging rights, they count for something.
My esteem is such that that's really enough.
Steve, thanks so much for joining us. Remarkable Retail, still for sale in bookstores everywhere. You have a great rest of your day, Steve.
Bye, Steve.
Thanks, James. Thanks, Taylor. Appreciate it.
So Taylor, you know what? I've got an item for discussion. This is a topic that I think it's time to really nail this down. We have been talking about this idea of when do things get back to normal? As long as we've been doing this show, right? Because we started this show during COVID. And the question always was, when are things back to normal? We decided when things were normal, we would create a new annual holiday called Normal Thursday, because this show comes out on Thursdays. So my question for you, Taylor, can we call it Normal Thursday? Is it here? In the US anyway, which is where we live.
Yes, let's also say, still understand it is a global pandemic. We are still in it. Things are not, let's level set on that. Man, I am torn, but I think it is, because I've also got to say, living in California, we were one of the first to lock down. We've had the strictest rules this entire time. It is a free-for-all now as of 2 days ago.
Yeah.
It is up to stores if you want to wear masks, but you don't have to. Outside of hospitals, you do, which also, I was talking to someone's like, that seems like that might just be a good idea, period, to wear masks in hospitals like forever.
They're like, maybe we just keep that.
Yeah, like that one seems really fair to me. But, I think, again, like we're going to have a lot of PTSD from this. So I don't want to try to say that, life is back to normal for everyone. Everyone's had really drastic experiences and it's been a really traumatic year. Yeah. So I don't want to say, by any means lighten the situation. But no, I think all signs point to, we're not going back into lockdowns. People are expanding. People are going back out. It feels back to normal.
I think we declare, Taylor, I had a beer in a bar. I've eaten out a bunch of times. I'm back to the store mostly without a mask. Depends on the store, but enough for it to feel normal.
Yep.
I declare today.
No, I like that. So
I declare the Normal Thursday. And from here on out, every June 17th, from here on out, we will celebrate Normal Thursday by eating lunch in a restaurant or going to a movie theater.
Having a beer at a bar and talking to a stranger.
Yes. Awesome. Love it. So Taylor, you've got some big news too. We're going to be having a guest host for the next little while here on Everything We Know About Retail. You're going to be taking some time off.
I am. I'm having a baby. So, that's what happens.
This is when you choose to tell me about it?
I know. They said I only needed to give you like a little bit of time, So this is good.
I mean, when are you due?
A week.
And you're telling me about it now on LinkedIn Live? Come on YouTube?
What more time could you need?
So Taylor, we're going to miss you, but we're so excited for you to bring a new young Coyne into the world. Coyne Shillstone, whatever it is. I don't know how you're going to, we'll let you figure that out off of live video.
Still got 7 days,
All right. And in the meantime, you have a guest. We're going to have a guest host who everybody should know, Iberi Anakute.
Yeah, he's been a host now before and been a guest on the podcast. I mean, on the video. It's very exciting.
Yeah.
He's going to be a great co-host.
Yeah. And you're going to, I'm assuming, watch every week, no matter what's going on in your life, right?
100%.
You're going to watch live. You're going to have a newborn, and you're still going to have time every Thursday at noon Eastern to jump on and watch James and Iberi make fools of themselves.
I personally already hit subscribe on my YouTube channel, so I get those alerts like you all should.
Yes. So, Taylor, I just want to remind everybody that they should be subscribing to our Where We Buy podcast. So, for example, I did a much more in-depth interview with Steve Dennis on Where We Buy, which is totally worth a listen. It's about a year old. It's about the earlier edition of the book, but still completely relevant. I want to remind everybody to subscribe to everything we know about retail. You can subscribe on YouTube by typing in everythingweknow.show into your web browser, and that'll take you there. And we are now on LinkedIn Live, which means if you're on LinkedIn, search for JLL Retail, you follow that page, and then you get notified whenever we go live every Thursday. So there's a bunch of ways to watch.
Such exciting stuff.
I know.
So many different ways to watch. No excuses, right? That's
I know.
the whole point.
You can watch it on the replay. You can watch it live. Just the only mistake you'd make is in not watching it.
There you go.
So, Taylor, this is going to be the last one for a while, but I have to ask you, what else do you know about retail?
James, I'll tell you more in a couple months.